it's really encouraging to not tell women what to do. And so it's really encouraging to not tell women what to do. So it's really encouraging to not tell women what to do. And so it's really encouraging to...
My body's sore. My mind is sore as well. But I like this room. I'm happy to be with you.
And with it goes hope. We've also lost hope. And when young people can no longer hope, then what's the purpose of enduring life for the next 60 years?
Could you describe who you are?
Yeah, I brought a poem. I just started reading Walt Whitman, which I had never done before. And I never thought that I would connect with that, a man who likes to run naked through the field. There's a segment of a poem that's me. So he says, what is commonest and cheapest and nearest and easiest is me. Me going in for my chances, spending for vast returns, adorning myself to bestow myself on the first that will take me, not asking the sky to come down to my goodwill, scattering it freely forever. That's how I feel about myself. Cheapest, easiest, commonest is me. That's how I feel it when I'm alone, that I don't need anything but myself, that I'm my best friend and worst enemy, and that I'm never bored, and I'm completely comfortable. And I'm so comfortable that it makes me terrified that next time I have to see somebody. I don't know myself fully, but I don't need to. And it's easy, even though it's hard. It's the easiest place for me to be. I need a lot of space. I prefer it. I'm the only one that can keep up with myself. I like being alone so much that sometimes suicide seems like a good option, like the final alone.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know. I'm never fully alone, so I would wonder if I did become fully alone, would I then miss being around others? Or like, if you have no one to digest you or reflect yourself back, then would you wither or something? Like we were talking about the plant in darkness. Do you exist if no one's around to experience you? When I'm alone, reality is malleable. I can look at things and they can become kind of cubist, reduced to cubism. I can take my mind to the end of the universe and be there, you know, because you don't have to carry someone else along and say, okay, this is where we're going, and do you see this, and let's explain this. You can just go. So I'm never bored, but my own self is truly sad. I'm beginning to know that that's fine too, because I think happiness is overrated and it's not actually the goal of life. That would be very flat if we were happy all the time. You wouldn't be able to enjoy your happiness if you didn't have sadness, the yin-yang thing. So I'm like beginning to love my sadness and see it as a fuel and a tool.
It's really not...
I got my guidance from mostly wanting to do everything the opposite the way my family did it. You know, just direct opposition. And I don't know if that came from my birth order, being the youngest and having some distance, not that I was able to, that's why I rebelled. I'm not really sure what it was, but everything the opposite. Just go, whatever they say, do the other way, because I'm seeing these people and I don't want to end up like them. At 13 years old, I got this boyfriend. My first real boyfriend. His name was Bill. And he was into punk music and all these things that I knew nothing about. And that was, you know, a thing that was the opposite of my family. That was so much so that getting into punk then allowed me to put a name to all these things that I knew I was against, but I didn't really know the dynamics of it. Like with politics, you know, like I knew my family was Republicans and I was not one, but I didn't know what I was, what to name what I was. And punk, like bands like Crass and stuff, started giving me the language of understanding, okay, that thing that bothers me, it's called capitalism, and like these kinds of things. So it just kind of snowballed from there. I think, you know, I was just a curious person. And I just kept pulling, you know, it's like a thread, and it just kept, and I'm still doing it now.
What were the things that you were curious about as a child?
Space. Because you couldn't get there. My childhood was a sort of, you know, privileged hell. And so this place that was so far away with no rules, vast nothingness, alone.
Alone, yeah.
It seemed really appealing to me, and I wanted to get there. And when I was younger, I wanted to be an astronaut. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to just get out of this atmosphere, basically. I would go out in the middle of the night. I grew up on acres and acres of land, and I would go out and sit in the field and talk to the moon. And just like look at it and really feel for it and see faces and images in it and just connected to that awareness.
To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed. The hate of men will pass and dictators die.
For me, I found it's easier the least amount that you interact with the news and kind of mainstream culture in general. It's easier to be content with your meaning in what you have. As soon as you start your vision starts broadening, if you start looking at the news, it's hard to stay positive. I don't know. Empathy is important in this, and that's something I really believe in, is the power of empathy and the power of love, and that's really all that you have to combat this stuff. I'm trying to get there with the politicians of the world, is love them and pity them, you know, and I've talked about this a lot, but, you know, with someone like Trump, like what happened to him? Something really, really bad happened to him that made him this way. And I'm sorry for him for whatever that was. And unfortunately, this is the tools that he has at his disposal. This is all he can do, is be destructive. So I guess he's doing the best he can. But I do know that the more empathy you can have for other people, the more this, the illusion of powerlessness kind of dissipates, and we all become the same. And it's easier to give yourself a break, and it's easier for all the systems in place that tell you you're nothing and you have nothing, and, you know, pitting you against, you know, every other human is not real, and you can erase it if you want to. You always get snapped back, which is the real frustrating part about it. And that's what makes it interesting, you know, and what keeps me from suicide, because it's like, number one, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, I'm definitely gonna die. So if that's what I want, then I will achieve it. And no matter what, I will be successful in death.
Yeah.
So why rush it? It's gonna come. Why not just see what happens here? And try and mold things as much as I can in my own life and my own vision and make it so that it's livable. For me, where I'm causing the least amount of damage to other people as possible.
Losing my future is not like losing an election or a few points on the stock market.
How can you put so much effort into life and making your things and taking care of your children and so much effort and you're exhausted all the time and then it's just going to be done sometime and your existence it's based ostensibly erased? So what was it for? And so then why even get out of bed? It's very difficult. But I think, and it's abstract. And that's to think abstractly is a privilege. And not everyone has it. It's not encouraged because then no one would go to their jobs or pay their taxes. People are like, fuck this. So there's a lot of things at play. But I do think death people can't accept, the ego can't accept that it will die, that their effort is for nothing, basically.
What to do. Not tell women. I encourage you.
I'm so cerebral that my body is something I'm not really, even though I know so fully the mind-body connection is your body is your mind and your mind is your body. There's no separation. I've really put them in separate rooms. I walk around my house constantly hurting myself because I'm lost in thought and I'm just running into walls or I'm, I sprained my ankle because I'm just jogging in place thinking and not, space is not, it's all in my head. That's where I want to be and where I like to be. And the body's been nothing but trouble for me my whole life. My body was a vehicle for abuse at a young age, and so my initial setup with it was faulty. The wiring was bad. I'm currently trying to rewire, but I don't even know how I look. I know I have blue eyes. I used to have, I quit, I used to smoke and drink and, sleep with anyone who asked me to with no protection, because it was just, I had no connection to my body and I thought it was just a tool for everyone else to use, basically. And now through movement and performance and trying to make my political beliefs, my beliefs of my body as well, it's getting better, I think. But as a woman that's in the cultural field, it is very important and focused on, and so I'm constantly struggling with it, even though it's not so important to me. But there's also this thing where it feels like it's my role as a Western woman to to struggle with it and to care about it and to put clothes on and makeup on and think about my skin compared to someone else's skin or my breast compared to someone else, or these things. So it's ingrained, it's so ingrained. And it also comes from your mother, how your mother viewed her body, I think is how you view yours. And it takes a lot of time to notice that and rewire it, because you think you're I'm not like my mom. I'm totally different. I live in the city and I'm you know what I mean? Or you think, but it's not, because for me it's I'm my mother when I'm in the mirror. And maybe that's why I don't, you don't like it when you see it or something, or I don't, or, yeah.
In my anger, I am not blind, and in my fear, I am not afraid of telling the world how I feel.
That's grown my empathy, reading, hugely. reading about other people's perspectives and history, and reading, people that have reading psychology and philosophy. People who are like me, who've just been thinking and studied long enough or worked hard enough to put it down on paper. Reading is and that's something, again, that I'm alone when I'm doing it, so it's wonderful because I don't have to, my dialogue, I can keep up with myself with the dialogue. It's very fast and rapid. I'm reading and I'm talking to myself about it and I'm relating it to my life, and I don't need to tell you, what do you think, or can you see this in me or something. It's a filter process that's instantaneous. Truly taking care of yourself, you don't really need to do too much, right?
That's true.
But a lot of people look like they're taking care of themselves, but they're not. I think
It's
just
what you said with the
surface.
being real, it's very superficial and just adding things, whereas you work the other way around.
I'd rather have a healthy mind than body.
Exactly, yeah.
But both would be nice.
More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost.
I brought another poem. So it says, that shadow, my likeness, that goes to and fro, seeking a livelihood, chattering, chaffering. How often I find myself standing and looking at it where it flits. How often I question and doubt whether that is really me. But among my lovers and caroling these songs, oh, I never doubt whether that is really me. Because Alter Ego has an audience, it's a performance, and if I know anything about performance, you have to really commit. So I have no doubts about my alter ego, and it's very confident, and everything I do is right because I chose to do it. That's what's strange about the alter ego that I kind of have made, is it's still sensitive and but it's like it's acting like I'm in control of my soft spots, and I'm gonna expose them to you now because I think politically or philosophically this is a good idea to do, when really it's actually very vulnerable and scary and
With an audience,
complicated because it's connected with commerce and things like that as well. But it's the only way to that you can actually sell yourself. Myself is so not with other people, and the alter ego has to be because it's for other people. It's not for you. It is in a way, but it's all for others. So it's very different than myself because, myself thrives when it's just alone. So I resent the alter ego. I wish I could. I wish it didn't. It did make a path for me. It opened 1 million doors for myself to walk through. And even so now, it's opened up doors to the point where myself has more time alone. I don't have a day job anymore, so when I'm not on the road and working on music and things, I'm alone, and that alter ego is allowed for that to happen. The alter ego, in terms of working in culture, is the commodity. It is the object. It used to be all through the body for me with the alter ego. It was all, I would lose myself in my body and I would hurt myself physically. I played in bands that it was all about that. It was about breaking a bone or cutting your wrist open and screaming till you lost your voice, and it was all wrapped up in the body back then. And because I think I was young, and it was just that was all I knew, because it was rage and it was so much emotion, that to sit and say, okay, I'm gonna go through this and see what it actually was, that would have been too much work. And I didn't have the tools yet, so it was just like violence. Let's do violence. The alter ego has to evolve, or else no one's gonna buy it. You know what I mean? It's pretty rare that someone's gonna keep buying the same thing over. You know what I mean? So you have to change so that you can live with doing this thing. but also so that other people will want to continue digesting it. The alter ego basically goes to work when self just wants to stay at home alone. So it's constantly this struggle for me, because I realize the power of the alter ego and what you can get with it, but myself is not really convinced that it's worth it. But I'm doing it anyway because for lots of reasons, you know. One, because this is my mode of making money at this time. And two, like, because I think that there is something valuable for other people in what I'm doing. I don't think it's some groundbreaking, world-changing stuff, but I do think that it's good for other people to witness. And I think that my actions and work make people think. Maybe not for long, maybe it's just a moment, but even so, I'm pleased with that.
All this is happening before our eyes, and yet we act as if we have all the time we want and all the solutions.
I would, when I'm feeling too critical of my alter ego and the public stuff, you know, he's always like, you would love you if you saw you perform, or like read an interview, be like, this person is saying all the stuff I think, you know, and it's true. So I've tried to make something that, yeah, myself can stand behind. What can sometimes happen is the alter ego becomes the self. It replaces the order. So it's supposed to be self first, then the double is the, right? And those flip, and so that can be, I mean, I think that's what celebrity is. Alter ego, I think, can play with things like pomposity and ego, and like that's a tool. But at the end of the day, how you actually treat people has to be the self, and treat people the way you want to be treated. Alter egos can treat each other in different ways and play those fucking games, but the core has to be. You got to be able to break face, I think, break the fourth wall with the alter ego and let others see. That's why I try to, if I'm on stage, that's that, but when I'm off, it's instantly off. My alter ego in a constant reaction is kind of that thing of me reacting to my family. It's like, oh, this is what's going on in culture, I'm gonna go the opposite. Oh, it's all electronic EDM, I'm gonna have a rock and roll band with a saxophonist then. You know, like playing devil's advocate constantly to culture. Being the kind of mosquito around culture that's, you know what I mean? Like, annoying. The alter ego, I want to give all the credit to the alter ego of myself. You know, like it's all me in the end. What other people say matters to us, even if we act like it doesn't. You could read something, you could be the most confident person in the world, but you read some negative thing, it would stick with you. Alter ego doesn't need it. Like, my alter ego's been set up so it's like, I'm against that stuff. I don't read that stuff. I don't need that. You know, when really I'm dying to know. I would love to, you know, like, myself would love to know and see all the pictures and look at the stuff. But then my alter ego knows myself is too sensitive in order to, because myself would stop the alter ego and retire it and then go into hiding, you know, so it's a protective thing.
It's a shield always.
And it's also that transparency thing, like, oh, let's say fuck that then. Let's say we don't need that. Don't turn my content into more content for you then. Like, don't rehash my content into crap, like your fucking headlines and your whatever, constant stuff. So it's that.
Parents should be able to comfort their children by saying, everything's going to be all right. It's not the end of the world, and we're doing the best we can. But I don't think you can say that to us anymore.
I know I'm a part of it fundamentally, but I resent that because I don't relate to the community. Other than just because I'm human, and so therefore I do. But yeah, I'm pretty frustrated.
Encourage you to
It's hard for me because I'm doing so much work on myself constantly, and I'm reading and I'm pushing myself and questioning everything, that when I'm faced with that the majority of people don't do this, I resent them instead of activating my empathy and saying, well, maybe they haven't had the time or the privilege or their life hasn't allowed for that, and seeing it that way, I'm like, fucking sheep or something. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
And there's no use in doing work on yourself to then feel better than other people. That's not the goal, and shouldn't be. It's actually counterintuitive to the work. But I'm not there yet fully. My alter ego is more there than myself, which is good. The alter ego is what keeps me engaged in a community. Otherwise, I would be cut off. I would just be cut off as myself. I wouldn't be participating in the larger world. My world would be very, very narrow. If I would be alive at all, I don't know. The alter ego has forced me into the world with the self kicking and screaming behind, kind of, but yeah. I mean, my self feels that acting like my alter ego could have any effect is silly, but my alter ego couldn't exist without thinking it had an effect. So, I have, all I know is I have good intentions, and so if there is an effect, then it will only be positive, so I hope that's the case. I don't think you could ever affect society as a whole because there's so many different cultures and rules and languages and things going on that you could never have a blanket effect. But I know that I'm affecting some people in society, and it seems to be only in a positive way, so I'm pleased with that. To make people sing or dance or think that's fulfilling to me.
So it's really encourage you to not tell women what to do. And so it's really encourage you to
I don't know what's going on with women. Yeah, we're in a competition with each other. We don't see each other as allies as much as we should. So I'm trying to, squash that through empathy and connecting us, and because every woman you should see, you should want to hug pretty much. Men is one thing. I understand being skeptical or judgmental or scared. But with women, I think we really need to get to the place where our initial reaction is love with each other, and benefit of the doubt. Well, where it's been proven that there's no one truth, through the media, we're presented with many different things that say it's the truth, and the news being the main culprit of that, but also image, a photo of a woman that's been airbrushed to hell, that's not a truth, that's a painting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no one looks at a painting and says, oh, that's a photograph. So, it's just technology mixed with access to so much history and content is creating a thing where everyone's making their own truth. Whereas previously religion told you, or, your culture, your specific, your spirituality told you what the truth was. Now we make our own truths, which is interesting. If it was just coming from us, that would, like a Walt Whitman was strolling through the fields and picking and deciding his truth, Instead, we're collaging it together from a commercial pollution, a stew, in all of recorded history. So it's a real mess.